Richards. He faces, for the first time, a world title and a world champion in Dmitry Bivol. Your commentary team for this one, Paul Smith and Nick Halling.
Thanks, Chris. We've already seen a 9-1 underdog romp home. Giovanni Straffon in our show opener. Craig Richards, a 10-1 underdog in this one. Stepping up from British Championship level to World Championship level against the unbeaten, seasoned, proven at the highest level, Dmitry Bivol. Can he upset the odds as well? Or will Bivol put in a bit of a performance tonight? And he needs to as well. Hasn't boxed for 18 months. And although he got the win last time out against Lenin Castillo, and you talked about this guy earlier, Paul and Chris, you talked about the absence of a crowd. Well, Bivol was getting booed by that performance last time out, but it's certainly made a very positive start in this one.
He has. It's a positive start from Bivol. It's quite a negative start from Richards, although I think that's what we have to expect from Richards. Back foot, he's moving the same way, circling all the time. Bivol cutting him off, trying to close the distance. Here we see Richards standing his ground. That's what I'd like to see from him. You know, try and command Bivol's respect a little bit early on. Get that jab out and use your assets and use the awkwardness that we know Richards has in his style to become an asset for him and become a positive for him.
Yeah, what Richards needs to be careful of, Nick, is just as he's drifting left with that jab, Bivol likes to pull the trigger as he did over the jab of Lenin Castillo, particularly as he's circling to the left-hand side. And Bivol doesn't need much more than a flash opportunity to land it, and he lands it with such force when he does so. But this is really where you see him come into his own. He pressures on the front foot, defends coming forward, a little bit Canelo-esque, a little bit Usyk-esque, and that front foot pressure without doing an enormous amount, because he's got the reputation of a puncher. He can inch forward into range, put you under pressure, and Craig Richards is going to have to be so switched on throughout these next few rounds.
Well, they've certainly got the game plan. Talking to Peter Sims, his trainer this week, he said we've got to keep him on the end of a long jab, and you can see Richards trying to do that, and he said we've got to judge the distance as well. He said you look at Bivol, he uses that lead foot as a marker, and if he gets it inside his opponent's lead foot, that's when he lets the punches go. So Richards, he said, not only has he got to have that jab going, he's got to be able to keep that distance between the two of them. Have him stretching and reaching so that he can maybe just come in with a counter of his own. Nice body shot downstairs there with the lead hand from Richards.
The front foot stuff, Nick, what you mentioned is very important. A lot of fighters you see, you know, they sort of BS their way in. They're doing nothing, but it makes them look like they're doing so much work just by pressuring with the feet. And when you're on the receiving end of that was a nice jab to the body from Richards there. When you're on the receiving end of that, it tires you so quick. You're constantly thinking and overthinking, trying to keep your distance and trying to keep out the way of the fighter coming forward.
Make sure the jab comes out fast though. Yeah. You can't leave it in, you can't bring it back too early.
You might just have heard whispering Peter Sims there saying that jab's got to come out fast.
We can't understand what's being said in the Bivol corner, but he looks very comfortable, doesn't he? You know, the mouth isn't even open breathing. He could do that for 12 rounds non-stop here, and that's where Richards has to realise now. He can do that for 12 rounds. There's got to be a point in this fight where Richards has to pull the trigger or go for it or go for broke or do something to try and upset Bivol from his rhythm.
Yeah, Bivol in that opening 3 minutes just got him thinking about the lead left hook on a couple of occasions, landed it and just clipped him and pushed him back with it, and that means he's probably trying to set up the right hand that he'll sit down on at some point as Richards drifts to the left. And as Peter Sims was saying to him, if you don't bring that jab hand back fast, that's when you'll get caught over the top with it. Just see it there, he pushes it out well, good speed, good extension, but if he doesn't bring it back to a responsible position and he's in range, he will get caught over the right of it.
You're absolutely right, you know, guys. I mean, when he brings that jab back, it's a little bit low as well, isn't it? A little bit slow and a little bit low.
It's a jab to the head, and then it comes back via the waistband, his own waistband. It's a jab down, back, jab down, and just push it out and get it straight back to the chin to protect. There's the left hook again. But if you notice the movement of Richards every time, Richards is moving to his left onto Bivol's right hand. As Chris has just mentioned there, very clever of Bivol. What he will do, he'll tee you up, he'll set you up a couple of times with the left hook so you'd expect it, and then bang, the right hand will come over the top.
Exchange of jabs there. Richards got through, but so too did Bivol. Just getting his own jab going pretty effectively here in this second round.
Nice.
Now this is good work from Bivol. Jab there of Richards was blocked, but he did follow through with the right hand.
That's better from Richards. It'll just stop Bivol in his tracks a little bit from just coming forward, trying what he wants. Give Bivol something to think about early on in the fight. Try and gain his respect.
And he's picking up these jabs really easily here in this second round, Bivol. Talked about the mistakes he makes at the domestic level that he won't get away with here. He just got away with one there, Richards. Oh my goodness me, he walked into that. You hear Peter Sims just saying that jab has got to work. Everything for Richards is going to come off that jab. He's looking for the right hand over the top there. Bivol, who is definitely starting to really grow and settle in this second round.
It's all too easy at the moment for Bivol. He's not really had to exert much energy in this round or in the previous round especially. But the shots are not necessarily power shots, but they're fast and they're quite explosive. He's just finding the target and finding the distance a little bit too easy for my liking here.
And again, picking up those jabs so easily defensively, Bivol.
You heard Peter Sims in the corner, guys, just say you're waiting too long, Craig, but this is the problem when you've got a puncher's reputation and then your opponent feels that power. It gives them the extra time that they need to go to work. And this is what we're seeing with Bivol now. He's got the attention of Richards and it's causing hesitation where normally you'd think and throw. He's pausing and hesitating now. And that's giving Bivol the time that he needs to get to work.
Well, it was a really good round for Dmitry Bivol. A little bit of success with the double jab there right on the bell for Craig Richards, but they've got some adjustments to make after that. And his father graced this arena many times in the past, ended his career here as well, but we won't talk about that. Campbell Hatton following in his father's footsteps, performing at the arena in his home city in an all-Manchester affair against Levi Dunn a little bit later on, and a fight that thankfully has gone under the radar because he was so in the spotlight for his debut in Gibraltar, and this is a young man who needs just time and space to develop.
Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? You've of course got the lovely support network around you as a byproduct of the surname, but of course what comes with it is an enormous amount of pressure and spotlight when really you should just be quietly going about your apprenticeship.
10 seconds, corners. Seconds out. Round 3.
Yeah, it was a good last round for Dmitry Bivol. He's really settled into this one. And Spider Richards from Crystal Palace in South London, as you say, is being made to think here, and I think he's already realising, hang on, I'm running with the big dogs here. There is a big jump up from domestic level to world level. And it's a tough jump to make in one leap. That's what Spider Richards is trying to do here.
Has to keep that jab going for me, Richards. It's okay being negative on the back foot, but you can't be negative by not punching. You can still be positive while you're doing it. Back foot circle, but you've got to get that jab out. Try and time Bivol for when Bivol makes them lunges, what he does. Jab, jab, jab. Wait for Bivol to come and then fire the 1-2, or then try and lay back and then catch him as he's coming in. But just backing off and circling in circles is just waiting for delaying the inevitable for me, for Bivol.
Brings the right hand into play there, Richards, and we haven't seen much of that through this fight so far. Does carry power in both hands. It was the right hand that opened up Shakan Pitters when he won that British title last time out, but he finished him off with a left hook.
Good jab from Bivol.
Yeah, because he's got that wide set base and long levers, Craig Richards, he is well set for that full counter right hand. Just how many opportunities is he going to get to land it cleanly?
It's the thing, isn't it? You're in with someone of the quality of Bivol and how good he is, but you still need to sort of give him something to bite at. You still need to dangle a few jabs out there to try and make Bivol react to, and then try and nail him as he's coming in. So clever, Bivol.
Clever again there.
Good
That was
shot.
better. Now that was better, and he got through with the follow-up right hand. A good little spell there for Richards, but Bivol is straight back on him and pushes him back up to the ropes. That's a really good response from the champion, as this one catches fire here in round 3. And that was smart of Bivol. He didn't allow Richards to build any momentum off that little flurry that he had. Put him straight back in his place.
That extensive amateur career which Bivol has had, you know, your opponent lands a shot, it gets the attention of the judges, and then you come back with a flurry and immediately bring the attention back onto yourself. We're seeing a good battle of the jabs here, but we have to remember that Richards is obviously around about 6'3" and a bit 6'4". Bivol only around about the 6 foot mark, and he's doing so well, Bivol, to try and out jab Richards and to out jab Richards with the success that he's having.
Still think too many of those jabs are falling short and getting picked up from Richards. Needs to be more consistently effective with it. That's easier said than done, of course, against a strong defensive boxer like Dmitry Bivol. Had a little moment in there, Spider Richards, and then Bivol responded immediately.
See, a lot of fighters of Bivol's stature and size against someone of the size of Richards will just neglect the jab and just trying to go into close to the body or try and close that distance down quick as they can. But Bivol's happily standing there trying to out jab Richards with the height difference. As we see Bivol, after that bit of success that Richards had, trying to just automatically switch the judges' attention back to himself with his flurry and get the fight back into his favour.
You know what, though, Richards went Philly shell on the ropes there and actually managed to roll and catch a lot of those shots that Bivol threw at him after he landed those 2 right hands.
10 seconds, corners.
A little bit of marking on the forehead, signs of the shots getting through from Richards.
Round 4.
Bivol isn't just completely walking through him at this stage, still just taking his time. Just see the weight inches forward, that weight kind of over that back foot, just so that when you step to him, he's always just ready to just pull, come straight back at you, and he often counters in combinations when you do commit with a single, and that's the danger. Every shot that he hits you with is hurtful, and it's precise and it's accurate.
Lovely body jabs there from Bivol. Doubled up downstairs.
Good jab there from Bivol.
Yeah,
you notice as well, Chris, as you're saying about the reddening on the forehead of Bivol, the way he defends, he blocks a lot with his own hands, and sometimes a lot of the reddening that will come around his face isn't necessarily just from the shots from Richards, it's actually his own hands being sort of punched against his own head. Them Grant gloves are quite tough, they're hard, and they look quite soft, and years ago they used to be for non-punchers and for the technical boxers with bad hands. Nowadays they're a puncher's glove, there's not much in them. Richards is finding a target area, whether that be blocked or whether it be landed, but he's finding the area.
He's out of range there, Bivol. Landed the jab there. If it becomes a battle of the jabs, that is a battle that Craig Richards has to win if he wants to win this fight.
He has the assets to win it, Nick. You know, he has the tools. He just has to make the jab more dominant. I'd like to see Richards try and target the body of Bivol. Bivol's, as I said, he's blocking with high hands. He's blocking with his hands up high to try and just shield the face, and very, very tight guard and strong arms and strong forearms. But that leaves the body open, and the big long levers of Richards can get round the outside of them elbows. You can see from this angle even more. The target area is there to hit the body of Bivol.
Still just working away behind the jabs, aren't they, both of them? As we get down to the last 30 seconds of this 4th round.
Just sort of little layback there from Richards. We've got to keep his composure now more than now. The more important part, these middle rounds of the fight for Richards, has to keep his composure. Don't lose your shape. Don't come up too high. You're going to get caught with big shots by Bivol like that. You've got to keep your composure now.
There you go.
I think as well, to the untrained eye, this has looked like a bit of a round of inactivity from Bivol, but the front foot pressure that he applies, the way he just changes the levels of the lead hand position, always keeping you thinking. You can just see how hard Craig Richards is having to work just to stay in this contest, and clearly Bivol is respectful of the power of Richards, otherwise he would just be marauding forward, which he isn't.
Katie Taylor arriving in our co-main event tonight, the unified champion, putting all her belts on the line against the woman that she beat in the London Olympics 9 years ago in the quarterfinals, Natasha Jonas from Liverpool. Is revenge going to be best served cold for Tasha Jonas, who certainly has a puncher's chance, got a very high knockout ratio. Tasha Jonas and stablemate of, former stablemate of Paul Smith. Paul, of course, has packed it in these days. You ever get on the receiving end of one yourself? Did you spar with her?
No, I didn't. I taught her how to use the speedball, that's my claim to fame.
Seconds out. Round 5.
Round 5 then. Dmitry Bivol defending his WBA light heavyweight title. First time this belt has been boxed for in the United Kingdom in 49 years. When Bob Foster came over to Wembley in North London and was too good for Chris Finnegan, the great Bob Foster. And going back a little bit further, it was a belt that was boxed for in Manchester in 1964. Willie Pastrano beating the British boxer Terry Downs. That was before even my time, that one.
You mentioned Bob Foster and what a jab he had. One of the best jabs I've ever seen, and this is what is key in this fight for both fighters, in my opinion. Richards, I'd like to see him become more dominant with his own jab and have a bit more faith in his own jab. It's a good tool, it's a good weapon, but mix it up, vary it, head and body, but really like to see him target the body area of Bivol. I haven't seen him throwing any body shots yet, Richards, and they are there. There's a big target to hit off Bivol.
Surprised he's not worked downstairs at all, Richards, because he did mix it up nicely when he won that British title against Shaq Pitters. But as you say, he's just, the game plan is there. Establish the jab, win the battle of the jabs, keep the distance. Make Bivol just start reaching in and see if you can pick him off with some of those right-hand counters. But at the moment, Bivol is handling that jab pretty effectively. And as you say, because of the guard being so high, Paul, there are other opportunities there, but Richards not able to exploit them thus far.
You see here, Nick, I mean, we saw the side-on view just a few moments ago. We can see it here. Because Bivol inches his front foot into range, but he's leaning back over his right foot, it makes the jab harder to land with impact. Craig Richards is just leaning slightly further forward, and that just magnifies the impact of the jab when Bivol does land it. As well, I think in terms of Richards going to the body, I think he's probably wary of dropping into range and just walking straight onto a right hand, because Bivol throws it with no tail whatsoever. It's better, though, from Richards.
Good shot from Richards, but there's going to come a time in this fight when he's going to have to go for it. And if you want to win this fight, you're not going to win it by doing this, because this is all comfortable for Bivol at the moment. You have to land, you have to go for it, you have to leave it in the ring, and the target area is there. You know, when you're backing Bivol up, he's just landed a lovely jab to the body there, Richards, when he thrown it, and he threw it really well. It landed, and he landed it very well. You know, the rest can come off that, then build on that.
I think you're absolutely right, Paul. It's hard to see how Richards pinches rounds the way this fight is going at the moment. It's Bivol that's the more eye-catching, the busier, the more successful. And, you know, we're through 5 rounds here. You know, Richards is going to have to start changing things up.
I think really, Nick, we're looking at a scenario here a little bit like with Joe Smith Jr., where if he can land one of those right hands clean on the temple and just buzz Bivol, and he has enough time left in the round, that's going to be where his opportunity will come. But the truth of the matter is, against a guy with the discipline of Dmitry Bivol, you're not going to get more than maybe 1 or 2 opportunities if you're lucky. He hasn't really had many so far in this fight. If he does get one, and it's a big if, he's going to have to really make the most of it.
Absolutely right, because right now, this man's pretty comfortable, the champion.
I mean, it's not like, you know, completely one-sided rounds or eye-catching stuff. He's just doing enough every round, and And that's what sometimes the fans and the hardcore boxing fans have criticised Dmitry Bivol for doing. He just does enough. He doesn't really set the night on fire, and that's probably why he's not as known as the likes of Bateviev to the average boxing fan. Because Bateviev, you get an action every single fight. Bivol is a talented fighter, a really quality fighter at a very, very top level. Has been both amateur and professional, but as in this fight, I believe he's been very guilty in the past of just doing enough, which is what he's done in the previous 5 rounds, in my opinion.
But he's clever with it, isn't he, though? Because I agree with you 100%, he's just doing enough here. You look at the scorecards of these fights that he's been winning recently, when they've gone the distance, they're wide. All the judges are seeing them very wide indeed, and it's tough to make a case for Craig Richards being close here as we go into the 6th round. It's a formula that works for Dmitry Bivol, and it is working so far here in Manchester. Switch downstairs there from Bivol.
See if Bivol's setting traps now. He's doing the same combination twice. The next one should be over to the top of the head at least. You know, we spoke. Chris, you mentioned early on in the first round, he's got Richards moving on to his right hand all the time, Bivol. It's only going to be a matter of time before he has to start throwing that shot, because Richards is doing the same thing every round. He's circling to his left, to Bivol's right, and he's coming onto that right hand perfectly, but just we haven't seen it yet.
Is it a case of we haven't seen it because Richards has been able to judge the distance to stay out of trouble?
Possibly, or Bivol might just be thinking this, it's not ready yet. You know, sometimes you need to tire them out and break them down a little bit more until the shot's actually ready, and don't give it away until you're ready to throw it. He may throw that, miss it slightly, and then Richard starts moving to the other way in the other direction.
Yeah, the more times you throw it and miss it, the more data Richards has on the speed, the positioning of it, where he is in range in relation to it. The less you throw it, the more the element of surprise catches you when you do land it, and the more he's likely to take advantage. But at the moment, Richards is still switched on. Conditioning looks good. He's not breathing too heavily. He's still got his reflexes about him, and his jab's still working pretty nicely too. And as you say, Paul, Bivol just slowly getting a little bit closer. Patient build up, and all the while just breaking him up and winning the majority of each round.
Yeah, and it's more of the same here for Bivol. Look for the right hand there, and it didn't land.
The thing with boxing sometimes, what the average fan on the couch may not realise is, you know, it's a brutal game, it's a beautiful game, but it's brutal sometimes, and you send the fighters out sometimes to not throw the best shot until probably round 5, 6, 7. Don't give it away yet, you know, let the fighter get comfortable. Once he's comfortable, then let the shot go. There's been fights where that's in the tactics, you know, go out there, but do not throw that best shot of yours until it's ready, until it's there. Don't give him a taste of it.
He had the last word there, Richards, but Bivol is starting to unload the combinations now. Did miss earlier, but certainly got through with the second time he landed. It was first there, but did take one back as well. Richards tries for the left hook and misses.
The nice pull counter right hand though before that.
I'd like to see more of that from Richards. That's what we were trying to talk about in the first couple of rounds. You've got it in your artillery. Let it go and do it.
So we're at the midway point of this one. The British champion is still in it. Well, he's got to make a move in the second half of this one.
Yeah. You know you're only on back and forth in straight lines. Yeah. Right? If I'm left hook and you catch it, it isn't your own left hook. Okay. Right? Keep your hands faster. Right? Yeah. You know,
The one shot Bivol has been looking for a little bit too much is that lead left hook, and Craig Richards' hand position has got more and more responsible as the fight's gone on to catch it. What Peter Sims has just said to there, for those of you that didn't hear, is when you catch that left hook, throw your own back. And Paul, I know one thing that Gallagher teaches your fighters is catch and counter with the same hand, but this would be, of course, the opposite. But as soon as he feels that left hook touch his right glove, that's when Peter Sims wants him to fire back with his own left hook.
Yeah, so sometimes catch and counter, whether it be the same hand or the opposite hand, it doesn't really matter as long as you can be in a position to let that shot go yourself and generate the amount of power that is needed and the speed that is needed. It's going to work. It's a risky gamble, but it's one that, as I've been saying, you've got to take gambles. This is your world title shot, so we're in round 7 now. This is the first half of the fight gone. Has anyone given Richards a round? Possibly not. So you need to, you've got to do something tonight. You can't just have 12 rounds of this and be happy with the performance. You've got to go for it sometime, and them type of shots and that type of advice from the corner is good advice.
Well, this is it, isn't it? I mean, we are at the midway point, and as you say, Craig Richards is not winning this one on points. There's no way. Bivol is comfortable and in control at the moment. As I said, I was talking to Peter Sims in the week. He said, we've got to try and back Bivol up a little bit because he backs up in straight lines. We want to leave him with nowhere to go. Well, I haven't seen much evidence of Bivol being backed up in this fight.
The only time, sorry, Paul, the only time he does back up is when Richards doubles the jab. The problem is when he throws it out as a single, that's when he's vulnerable to the counter, because Bivol either comes over the top, or usually does with the right hand, or he counters in combinations. And that's the difficulty, is that for every one shot Richards lands, and he is landing some shots clean, Bivol will come back with 2 or 3.
Bivol's also good, again, because of his old amateur pedigree and amateur experience. He'll land a jab, he'll knock the head back of Richards, then he'll back off and let the judges admire it, and he'll admire it. And it's just highlighting what he does well.
Yeah, nicely blocked off again there by Bivol. He's done a really solid job defensively here through this fight. Through the first 6 rounds and 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Managed to get the backhand in there as well. Bivol.
Nice stuff from Bivol there, nice
really
counter.
sharp.
Right hand and then a jab, reverse 1-2, good combination. Good combination to get back out of range, which is, as I've just been saying, is what Bivol likes to do. He'll come in, he'll land a shot, and then he'll back off straight away.
Bivol going for it here, and that's when he could be vulnerable, because Richards does carry some spite in both hands.
Yeah, but the issue is, of course, at mid and short range, is that Bivol has got much shorter levers, and he's going to be hitting the target first, and that's where I think Richards is probably more vulnerable. I'm having to unwind those levers and punching with Bivol, not something he wants to do, and he was caught a couple of times in the crossfire there.
Which one of you guys booked the Russian translator, and why haven't they turned up yet? I think we can probably paraphrase by saying, just do more of the same, Dmitry, because we got this where we want it right now.
I should be getting used to it. I'm flying out to Russia on Monday morning to watch my brother Liam fight next Friday night over in Yekaterinburg, so I've got a bit of a journey and I'll have to get used to this accent and this language. Listen, I think the advice from that corner, judging on Bivol's previous performances, his previous fights, watching him throughout the years, is more of the same. Just more of the same. Keep chipping away. More of the same.
Round 8.
Yeah, you've never got the impression that Dmitry Bivol is one of those guys that wants the highlight reel finish. He wants the W. And if he can get it just racking up the rounds like this, that's what he'll do.
Previous couple of rounds, once Richard starts to throw a couple of combinations together and a couple of double jabs, Bivol will just wait. He doesn't really want to engage. He waits to see what you've got, and then when he knows it's safe to do so, he'll have a go. And that's what I was saying about the start of the fight for Richards. You've got to be able to bluff your way back in. You've got to BS yourself in the fight as well, and make Bivol think that you're working and attacking even when you're not. Try and conserve your energy while you're doing so, but then you've got to go for it when you go for it. You can't just wait and let Bivol dictate, which he has done for the previous 7 rounds.
One of a really good group of British light heavyweights, just bubbling under at the moment. Already talked about Anthony Yarde and Callum Johnson coming up short against Russian opposition. Joshua Buatsi, Lyndon Arthur very much in the mix domestically.
And you have to say as well, there was a lot of criticism when this fight was made that Richards would be well out of his depth. He's certainly second best here, but you wouldn't say he was well out of his depth. He's performed as good as any of the last 4 or 5 opponents have against Dmitry Bivol. He's certainly more competitive than some of them have been. And we have to remember that outside of arguably Artur Beterbiev, we don't know which one of the two of them is better until they meet. Bivol is the best in the world by a stretch here. And Richards is boxing well. He's just, as we say, he's losing the battle in terms of the volume of shots that he's landing. He's landing good singles and he is getting through to Bivol, but for every 1 or 2 that he lands, Bivol is landing 3 or 4, and he's being the aggressor and he's dictating the pace as he is now, and that's been the difference.
And that's something else he's done, and we've referenced it a couple of times. Whenever Richards has had some success, Bivol is straight back on him immediately.
Exactly, that's been the pattern of the fight. The minute Richards lands a couple of shots, Bivol will have the next flurry and he'll have the final say, and it'll shift the momentum right back into his own favour. And more importantly for him and how he fights, it shifts the judges' attention back to him.
Oh, let's see if Richards can consistently stay on the front foot here and force Bivol back. See if that changes things up a little bit. But, you know, I'm with you guys. It sounds like we've been a bit critical about Craig Richards. He is making this huge step up and he hasn't been completely out of his depth.
The way I look at it, and again, it's not really criticising Richards. I just think he'll criticise himself when he watches it back. I think he'll feel like he could have done a little bit more. I said the same about Liam Williams a couple of weeks back with Andre. It's not a criticism. You've done very, very well in the performance, but I know you're better than that. And I think Richards will watch this back and think I could have put a bit more into them early rounds or the mid rounds. He's doing well in this 8th round. It's probably been his best round in my opinion so far, but he needs a big last 4 rounds now.
Trying to nick the fight back, are you? Yeah.
No question about who that is. Derek Chisora is in the house. How many times has he been written off? How many times has he defied his critics and come back for more? And here he is, looking to catapult himself right back into top 10 contention right across the board if he can get the win against Joseph Parker, who will start as favourite, but this is a very, very live opponent indeed, Derek Chisora, operating under the latest coach, Buddy McGirt.
Yes.
Plenty to come before that, of course. Well, at some point, Craig Richards is going to have to take the handbrake off here if he wants to win this fight and just go for it, with all the attendant risks that brings.
This position he's in now, Richards, holding the centre there, that's where he needs to be now. No more on the back foot, no more circling around in circles on the back foot. Be positive now, keep this position, and then we'll see what Dmitry Bivol has got and how he can adapt himself to that.
Yeah, you can hear Peter Sims now saying, come on, you've got to let your hands go. And we haven't seen any kind of power punches really landing and troubling Bivol. Just the odd 2 or 3 maybe over the course of the fight. Bivol has bitten back on all of them immediately. The right hand of Craig Richards has been a concealed weapon this evening.
I think it's hard to underestimate when you're in with someone like Bivol, his command of distance and the way he glides in and out of range. He's so fluid. I think when you're in there with him, it's so easy to say that Richards needs to pull the trigger, but sometimes the opportunities just don't. They may look like they're there to us, but to him, he'll be in there and just say, look, not only did I feel the power early on and knew the danger of over-committing, but also just the way he commands distance, just leaning in and out of range, almost Canelo-esque in that sense. He may look like he's there, but actually it's far harder to set those shots up and land cleanly.
This is better from Richards this round, and if you've noticed, his back hasn't touched the ropes once, he hasn't been near them. There you go, that's probably the closest he's been so far, but he's keeping the centre of the ring.
Yeah, circled round him well, didn't he?
He's keeping the centre, and this is better for Richards. It's a good little spell from Bivol at the moment, but it's a better round from Richards, the way he's performing and the way he's keeping his distance and keeping the centre of the ring.
There's a lot missing from both of them in this round.
And because neither of them have invested in the body early or at all really at any point in this contest, both of them are pretty fresh in the legs and their hands are still pretty sharp, and that's one thing you can say for the pair of them. Conditioning looks good, but of course neither of them have really tested that little jab to the body from Bivol there, but mainly they both headhunted. Stiff jab there again from the champion.
Yeah, Richards just countered there on his way out. Just as Nick was saying earlier, you'll pay for them mistakes at the top level. Two good rounds on the bounce there for Richards, I believe. And that was a better performance from him in that round, holding the centre of the ring.
And Joseph Parker is in the house. Well, after all the drama, after the coin toss and everything, and we wondered, would we have our main event? Yeah, we got our main event. Both combatants are in the building. Andy Lee just behind Joseph Parker there. Those two have just clicked personally as much as professionally. They really just have bonded immediately. Parker was saying, left Kevin back when he left Kevin Barry, there's no bad feelings. I just think I need to do something a little bit different. Here, Craig Richards is the man that needs to do something a little bit different.
Первую двоечку просто покажи, обозначь по передней
And he's running out of time.
Захта по воздуху. Выйди назад. Он потянется, и здесь могу или правый, или еще раз-два. Понял? Давай. Десятый.
Seconds out. Round 10.
Round 10 then. Bivol well ahead on the cards, you would think, against Craig Spider Richards, the big underdog, the British champion. Only been beaten once himself, and that was on 6 days' notice. And he stepped in against Frank Buglioni.
Come on, don't overthink it, let's go.
I can remember that night as well, Nick, and technically he was far better than Buglioni in the early stages, but just given the late notice and one of the first times that he had stepped up to 175 pounds as the fight wore on, he just completely ran out of steam. But in the last 2 or 3 years, he's really filled out into the weight. His punch resistance has looked infinitely better, as it has tonight as well. And he's looked so much more powerful too. Really grown into a decent light heavyweight. Look, he has lost probably 10 out of 10 rounds here, bar maybe 1 or 2, depending on how you look at it at home and where your allegiances lie as well. But he can take a lot from this performance. He's not been overawed at any stage. He's not looked majorly hurt at any stage. Nice right hand there.
Yeah. That long right hand did get through. Now, can he build on that? He's got to just put his foot down here. Roll the dice. Right hand counter comes in, but Bivol again responds as he does so well and puts Richards back in his place. That's why he's an unbeaten champion.
Richards has a good little spell of success there, Nick, but Bivol just showing why he's the champion at the moment. Coming back, but he has to keep it on him now, Bivol.
Well, Richards landed the solid shot downstairs, which we haven't seen. And Bivol then just tucked up. This is decent from Richards.
The body is such a big target for Bivol. If Richards can capitalise on it and try and bang a few round the side of the elbows off Bivol, it's such a big target, and it's been neglected all night for me.
Well, there's still time for Richards to maybe find the leveler here, but assuming it goes out like this, I totally agree with you, Chris. He's not going to be disgraced, and he shouldn't come out of this disappointed if he does end up losing this. Richards, he'll learn so much from it. Lovely left-hand counter then from Bivol. But Richards showing that greater sense of urgency now, pressing forward. There goes for the body again. It's better from Richards.
Yeah, I'd like to see Richards start leading off with the right hand.
Yeah.
Bivol's expecting a jab every time, then he's slipping out of the way of the right hand. Just start leading off with it. Just a lead right hand, yeah.
He can lead with it really well. It's almost like an elastic right hand. He kind of drops that right shoulder and almost throws it kind of southpaw-esque. That's how he got Shaq and Pitters and hurt Jake Paul with it too. Sometimes he looks like he's out of range and he lets it go and it lands on the button, but he's in a firefight here.
Yeah, Bivol looking to finish the round strongly. Again, catch the eye of the judges. It has been a better round for Richards, but Bivol has had his success as well.
This is where the experience comes in. You've just seen Bivol trying to put his foot on the gas for the last 30 seconds there to catch the eye of the judges, but Richards was having none of it. Very good round for Richards again.
It really was. I can't help but think, you know what, I wish he'd been doing this 4 or 5 rounds earlier. Just go for broke. Right-hand counter, but Bivol, as you say, always comes back with something. He never allows a good shot to go unanswered.
I thought Richards, even there, you know, his defence was okay, his evasive skills were good. He was getting out of the way of most of them shots there. And the brunt of the shots, the brunt force of the shot was taken on Richards' gloves.
Опять разрываешь, опять легкая. Просто посмотреть,
Yeah,
где он, как он
with me,
себя чувствует.
Bivol is a quality fighter, exceptional, up there with the very best at the moment. But I always wonder about his work rate, his fitness, his desire, because we never see him really exerting himself too much. As I've said previously, he just does enough every time, and I very, very rarely see him step out of that comfort zone.
He's never had an opponent to take him out of that comfort zone, has he? Always been just that level above, and he's been a level above here. But can Richards put together a grandstand finish? We know he has one-punch power to turn it around, but that's at domestic level. Can he transfer it to world level? And can he do it in the 5.5 minutes that remain in this one?
You know, Peter Sims shouting in the corner, body head. It's good advice, you know, I'd like to see Richards just target the body. Bivol's comfortable blocking 1, 2, 3, 4 big jabs to the head. He's not expecting anything coming to the body, so he just lifts both elbows up high every time Richards throws shots, as you can see.
Drop the right hand in there, and you heard Peter Sims say, drop the left hook in there as well. Again, the double jab blocked off. Bivol has done such a great job defensively blocking that jab.
See, Bivol comfortable, he's not, that's better from Richards. That's what I'd like to see a bit more of. He's comfortable because he's not expecting a second phase of attack from Richards, whether it be to the head or the body. When he's just throwing that left hook to the body, it gave Bivol something to think about. Straight away, he brought both elbows down. Good right hand.
Straight through the guard, set up by the lead left. It got through.
You see what I was saying before, I'm not being critical of Richards, I'm just saying he'll watch this back, and if he doesn't get the decision tonight, I feel he will feel he could have did more early on. A bit more success, a bit more positivity in the middle rounds to do this to Bivol, to sort of put Bivol back into his shell and on the back foot.
But also, Paul, I'm with Chris on this. I think he'll take a lot out of this, Craig Richards. I think this could be a platform for him to go on and maybe come back and have another go at this level. It's been such a big step up for him, and he has not been outclassed at all. And here he is in the last minute of the 11th round, still looking for a way to try and break through against this unbeaten, classy world champion.
This is a good, positive performance. The last 3 rounds for Richards have been brilliant for him. Positive, coming forward, attacking, not showing too much respect to Bivol, which he was guilty of doing early on. He's holding his own.
Left hook from Bivol did get through. That's nice again from Richards, and he works it again. Well, he neglected the body through the first half of this fight. And as you said, Paul, that was there for him all night long. Oh, lovely from Bivol. Again, the flashy finish in the last few seconds of the round. He judges it. His management of a round is so good. Bivol with a big, big finish. But in the first 2 minutes and 45 seconds of that round, there was some good stuff, some encouraging stuff from Richards.
That's what I was trying to say. Like, I'm really, really not being critical of Richards as such, and it's not a put down. It's actually a positive way. He's in here with a world champion, one who many consider to be the best light heavyweight in the world. And for those middle rounds where he just didn't do as much work as he's doing in these last 4 rounds. These last 4 rounds, when Chris was saying before, you know, how you gave them last 4 rounds or how you've scored them last 4 rounds. I've given Richards the last 2 rounds and a share of the one before that. I think he's really performed well, and he's turned the fight around at the moment, but whether that is, albeit too late, who knows. But Bivol, for me, has been trying to do just enough, and he hasn't done enough for the last 3 rounds.
Well, 1 round left then. Dmitry Bivol putting his WBA light heavyweight title on the line against Craig Spider Richards from Crystal Palace in South London. The British champion taking this huge step up in class and not being shown to be out of his depth either. But surely he needs to, at the very least, put Bivol on the floor here in the time that remains to have any chance at all. Because at the midway point of this fight, Bivol had a big, big lead. And is it a case for Dmitry Bivol? Enough rounds in the bank and he'll just sit there and say, that's it, I've done it again.
Don't wait.
Yeah, he's got to let him go here. Bivol will happily have this last round at a very, very slow pace. It's Richards that's got to force the issue here. You can hear him saying in the corner, this is the 12th round. This is it. Don't leave it all there. Don't carry something back into the locker room. Let it all hang out right here.
There's just no urgency from Bivol at the moment. There's just no real work ethic or work rate from him.
But he doesn't need the urgency, Paul. He's comfortable. It's Richards that needs the urgency.
Yeah, it tells you what he thinks about the fight, Bivol. It tells you that he knows he's done more than enough early on in the start, the first and the middle 4 rounds of this fight.
There he is, holding and spoiling. Buying a few more seconds, getting himself closer to the final bell. That's nice from Richards. Bivol does take it all, and as you say, no urgency at all. He's just tucking up there, Bivol, making sure he doesn't get in serious trouble. Trying to land that left hook. Takes a couple of jabs back. He's never landed a really significant power punch tonight, Craig Richards, and for that you have to say Dmitry Bivol has really put on a very, very impressive performance defensively.
It's levels in boxing, as we always say, as a lot of people say, but listen, Craig Richards tonight has proved that he can mix it at a level above what he's been competing at in the past, and in future he can step up to them levels, because certainly hasn't disgraced himself tonight. It's been an exceptional performance from him.
Yeah, no question about that at all. 20 seconds left. Well, Richards trying to just put it all together in these last few seconds, and Bivol, smart, intelligent, not giving him any room to work. And that'll do it. Well, Richards can certainly hold his head high at the end of that one, because it will go to the 3 scoring judges. I tell you, even if he doesn't get the decision, I'm 100% with you, Paul. Craig Richards and Peter Sims will take an awful lot out of this performance. And you know, the second half of that fight was very different to the first half.
That's what I was trying to get at, Nick, and I don't want it to sound critical of him. I just know that when he watches this fight back, he'll watch the first 6 or 7 rounds and think, I should have just done a little bit more in those rounds, and maybe I'd have had the success I had late on a little bit earlier. To make someone tire late in a fight, I always see tactics from trainers. I always see people on social media talking about tactics. He's going to get him late, he's going to get him. You can't get someone late unless you make them work early. You have to get them out of the comfort zone early to have the success later on. And I think if Richards had just done a little bit more in the middle rounds, instead of taking the last 4, which I gave Richards the last 4 rounds, he may have took the last 5, and then it's a close fight, and then it becomes a questionable fight about the decision, because you take 6 of them rounds, obviously it doesn't take a brain surgeon to see. You're going to be in with a shout for that fight. But listen, ultimately, fantastic performance from Craig Richards. He should be proud of himself, and I think Dmitry Bivol has done what he has always done, and just done enough to win the fight.
Should we expect more of a talent like Dmitry Bivol? Should he have bossed that fight?
As Chris said at the start, there's no fans, there's no atmosphere. There's, you know, it's tough at the moment for fighters. I don't think me, when I was fighting, I don't think I'd have been able to do that fight with no fans. It becomes like a spar. You can hear each other breathing. You can hear the advice from every single part of the arena, or the closed hall that you're fighting in, and it's very, very difficult to generate any sort of adrenaline, because it would feel like a spar for me. So hats off to both fighters and all the fighters on the bill, and credit to them for performing in such circumstances.
Well, they know it's nearly time great man is there, Roy Jones Jr. Fascinating to see how his partnership with the other junior, Chris Eubank, progresses and develops. And in his dressing room, Marcus Morrison will be getting some final instructions from your old trainer, Joe Gallagher. Eubank will come in, of course, as the overwhelming favourite. Not many giving Morrison much of a chance at all. Just what a privilege it is to have this man on our shores. But anyway, let's find out how this one has played out, because I think we're just about ready to hear the verdict.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of boxing here in Manchester, England, we go to the judges' scorecards. Gregors Melenda, 118-110. Yuri Kopsev, 115-113. Steve Gray, 115-114. All three for your winner by unanimous decision. He's still undefeated,
Bivol's got it.
and still
Bivol's
the
got it.
WBA light heavyweight
One had it
champion
wide.
of the world.
The other two reflected how you read the fight, Paul Smith, that
Bivol.
Bivol had put enough in the bank.